What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. First up, a correction. Last episode, I talked about Chicago Coins Festival, and I mentioned that the only lanes where you could get A and E were down at the bottom. But as it turns out, eagle-eared listener Ryan Claytor heard me say that and pointed out that there are, in fact, A and E lanes at the top, directly below the rebound rubber and on the other side. I don't know how I missed that, but I did. So thanks, Ryan, for pointing that out. And there you go. This game looks a little less challenging now, but it still looks super fun to me. I'm still interested to hear from anybody who's played it. In other news, a new in-box, sort of, Bingo Pinball was listed on eBay. It's a Bally Tahiti. This is unfortunately not one of the better games, in my opinion. It's a 40-coin max game, which means that exactly what it sounds like. You can only put in up to 40 coins, and then you're done. Now, 40 coins is an awful lot, but the other thing that tells me is that the portioning inside has changed, and it's not changed for the better, in my opinion. Bally really kind of slimmed down the mechs inside to make them a little simpler to design, not necessarily simpler to run, and I don't happen to agree with some of those decisions. So in my opinion, it's just not quite as fun as most of the other Mystic Lines games for that reason. It is a Mystic Lines game, so you can move around every number on the back glass. It's a 20-hole game. There are no extra balls, but there is the ability to earn letters B and C in the Mystic Lines in a different order than normal. So normally in the Mystic Lines games, you have to get A, B, C in order to move all the columns. In this case, you can get A, C, B. Kind of a neat little gimmick. Not really something that I would, base an entire game around. That said, the scoring options are also less. They got rid of the red letter game, for example. And anyway, this game, not one of my favorites. It is cool to see a new Bingo Pinball machine, though, and being able to unbox one. I mean, that's really neat. Now, unfortunately, the person who's selling it has already opened the box. To me, that's a good chunk of the fun. And they've taken pictures of everything pulled apart, which, is part of the experience that you're buying, I would think. That said, quite a few of these have turned up over the years, new in box, this and Miss Universe, and I have to imagine that's because these were kind of duds out on the road. Not as many players played these as many of the other games. So while it's cool that there's a new in-box bingo, I would say, it's unfortunate that it's not a game like Golden Gate or Silver Sails or Bounty, Doubleheader, one of the very good or very rare games. I am also curious if a new in-box United will ever show up. United games are so very different. I'm really interested in knowing what the packaging material might have been like for a United. I have a feeling that it would share some similarities, but it would be a little different. Oh, and that's the other interesting thing. The packing material for Tahiti is almost exactly the same as it was for Silver Sails. And I guess it makes sense, but the cabinet and head design is a little bit different the head design is different on Tahiti than it is on Silver Sails. So it's a little surprising to me that the packing material is so very similar. So in that regard, I'm glad that the seller opened it up. There will be a link in the show notes to go check out that auction. It's out in California if you'd like to check it out. Today's featured game is Bally's Classic from 1937. This is a one-ball horse race game, but of a different stripe. it does not have trap holes on the playfield. Instead, there are a bunch of different bumpers. And on the back glass, there are different horses, but those horses are pretty much just decoration. And in fact, you can swap out the back glass with an auto race theme that you can purchase from the factory in case horse racing is less acceptable to the demographic that you're operating with. So the goal of the game is to get an even number of points. If you end the game with an even number of points, then you'll win the amount shown on the back glass that's lit up. So the horse that is lit is actually the odds that you'll win if you have an even number when you finish playing. There's quite a few barriers to actually finishing with an even number, not the least of which is the army of bumpers down near the drain that you have to bypass, assuming that you get an even number before you get there. They're all passive, though, so it should be easy to navigate past them without hitting them multiple times, theoretically. But there is one feature on this playfield that is unusual, and that is the constantly rotating bumper. It reminds me of the bumpers from Orbiter 1, where instead of a traditional pop bumper, there's just a motorized bumper, and it's just turning the whole time, and if you hit it, it'll fling the ball off in an interesting direction. It is located basically dead center in the bottom half of the playfield. Pretty interesting idea and design choice. I also think it's a bold move to pay on any even number score. That must mean that this playfield layout was tested pretty heavily, and it's pretty hard to get through with an even number. You only have one shot to do it, so there's not 5 balls waiting for you to do this. It uses a totalizer, kind of like Bally's bumper, where it uses a projection for the score, which I think is really cool. I think it's really pretty and neat. It also has a payout drawer, a hidden payout drawer underneath, and that I think is cool too. So it automatically pays you up to $2 if you win, just based on which odds are lit on the back glass. There's also a score threshold feature, so if you happen to hit above the score threshold, whether it's odd or even, doesn't matter, then you automatically get paid out the amount of odds that are shown on the back glass, which I think is pretty neat. So this is a very early game with the ability to win on score, and it's a very early game with a constantly spinning motorized bumper. Now let's read some stuff from the flyer, because I think it's not only fascinating, but also kind of hilarious. So they talk about the bumpers on the playfield, and these bumpers, as I mentioned, they're pretty static. The only thing is their construction is such that they're not like a typical post or a typical bumper. They're like a huge post that's with a skirt that is sticking way out beyond where you would normally expect the rubber on a bumper to stick out. So they call these rubber tire bumpers, and they have the bounciest material known to science. I don't know if you knew this. Rubber has tempted the talents of game designers for years, but the well-known insulating power of rubber has defied all attempts to use rubber in bumper-type construction, and it remained for Bally engineers to solve the problem by means of the revolutionary supercharged playfield featured on Classic. Thanks to the clever invention, Classic rubber tire bumpers have the pep and power obtainable only in pure gum rubber, twice as bouncy as Bally's bumper spirals. Yet each and every hit or bump is instantly flashed on the totalizer in big, brilliant numbers. So this next thing is one of the most important, and it's a really interesting early experiment that Bally did with different playfield materials. So Bally had over the years tried making metal playfields, just purely metal playfields. They've also tried making resin playfields, neither of which held up for various reasons. In the case of the metal playfields, it's because electricity had to flow through the playfield at all times. It was really easy to get shocked. I don't know if it was harder to keep clean or not, but I have to imagine that it would be pretty challenging to keep it clean and attractive for people coming up to play it, because it's constantly getting dulled by the ball rolling over it. At any rate, on the flyer it says, new chrome steel playfield, a specially prepared plate of satin finish chrome steel. The supercharged playfield is ultra modern in appearance with a silver bright luster, unusually rich in eye appeal, a perfect surface for smooth, speedy ball action. And the revolutionary whirling bumper, positively the most amazing action you ever saw. Located near the bottom of the board, the whirling bumper spins like a top, sends the ball snaking all over the field. Imagine an electric kicker capable of swiveling around to catch the ball from any angle, and you'll get some idea of how the whirling bumper whips the ball into action. See it yourself and you'll agree that the whirling bumper alone ensures constant repeat play and heavy collection. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty interested in giving this thing a shot. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to me on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.